People say there's an anti-incumbent move. And I understand that. There are a lot of incumbents we got to get rid of. There's some incumbents you get rid of over my dead body, because this is my congressman and I love him. And let me tell you why. This gentleman came into Congress not after a whole lifetime of being a lawyer. God bless lawyers, that's all fine. He had been a doctor. He had been a doctor. He had delivered babies. He had given birth to people. He held life in his hands. And today, he holds the nation's fate in his hands. Because as a doctor, who better to stand up to a president who thinks he knows everything about everything and say respectfully, no sir, you don't. I'm a doctor and you're wrong. Who better to step up with the kind of courage that he's delivered in just a short amount of time, just a few terms in Congress, not just on health care, but on the environment, on taxes, on the war. He has traveled tirelessly to the war zone to show our troops that every day while we go about our lives, we will never forget what they do to protect our freedoms. That's what he has done. And so on the 2nd of November, I will be proud to see many people in America going to the polls to get rid of some members of Congress. I'm going to the polls to keep mine, because he is a magnificent example of what it is to be an American, what it is to be a great doctor, what it is to be a great member of the United States Congress, Republican of the 26th, the Honorable Michael Burgess.
Just the way I wrote it. I love it when he does that. Hey, Stephen Broden, you know, when it first came to my attention that Stephen Broden was running for Congress, someone said, well, that would be as crazy as a Democrat being elected from Waco, for crying out loud. Oh, we forgot. We have one. There is no reason that Stephen Broden should not represent District 30 next year. Look, on November 3rd, a lot of people are going to wake up, a lot of people in the press are going to wake up, and they're going to be very surprised at some of the things that happened in this election. There's going to be some upsets. Well, why not Stephen Broden leading the pack on that? I got to tell you, I am looking forward to that night near the midnight hour when Stephen Broden takes the pulpit on our side and closes out the debate for the repeal of Obamacare. I'm waiting to see it. I want to thank you for being here. I know it was a long day. I know it was a hot afternoon. I purposely waited till the very end because I wanted the sun to be below the bleachers so I could see you. It is wonderful. Last summer, last August, remember that? I came home July 31st. We had a big health care bill in our committee. I voted no, came home. I wondered what people were thinking. They told me what they were thinking. Thousands of people came out to town halls last summer and said, don't do this. We want you to fix some things. We think it costs too much. We'd like some help with pre-existing conditions. You might fix tort reform like we did here in Texas, but don't do this to our healthcare system. When we got back in September, I thought, boy, people have been talking like this all over the country. I went to other districts. I went to help Michelle Bachmann up in Minnesota. I saw the same thing everywhere I went, and I thought, well, we got to hit the pause button or the rewind button. But the president came and talked to Congress. Remember that night Joe Wilson stood up and said something to him? And he said, no dice, don't check the weather, we're flying anyway, full speed ahead. And that's what they did. So November, the House passed a bill, the Senate took up a completely different bill and passed it on Christmas Eve, and that's what you got. That's what our doctor was telling us about with his charts that say this thing is unworkable. It is by definition going to collapse. The timeline is 57 pages long. The bureaucracy, the new bureaucracy, fills up a whole wall on any wall chart. You can't do this. It doesn't work. So I voted against the bill in committee. I voted against it on the floor. I voted against it in March when it came back. You know what? If I could vote tomorrow, I'd vote against it again. So I don't understand the people who say, well, we're not sure we can now rip it out. Yes, rip it out. Rip. And is it tough? Yes, it's tough. I believe we're going to take the House. I believe we can pass that bill for repeal. But yeah, the president's going to veto it. It's his signature issue. Why wouldn't he? But we will defund it. The first thing that comes to the floor is a big spending bill because the Democrats haven't done any appropriations this year because they're too tough to do in an election year. So we're going to have to do it January 1st. We're going to cut spending down the line, and we're going to defund this bill. Yeah! I got to tell you something. It was really a great day this week. Katrina Pierson, many of you probably don't know her. She's the head of President Obama's economic advisors. She went back to Berkeley. And she proved the point that Margaret Thatcher had said a generation ago. As she left town, she said, I guess we ran out of other people's money. It was as simple as that. Well, I want to channel my inner Ronald Reagan for just a moment. I wasn't going to do this, but I can't resist. It's a question of definitions, and we hear these terms all the time, recession, depression, and people say, what does it all mean? Well, recession is when your neighbor loses his job. Depression is when you lose your job. Recovery is when Nancy loses hers. Thank you,
Congressman Michael Burgess.